Hi everyone, so we're on our way to see Paul Gilbert tonight at the Forum Vauréal. He's actually doing a masterclass tonight, and he'll be playing with the drummer I actually play with, who's called Vauréal. So that's really exciting for me because very fond memories of Paul when I was a kid. Really digging Racer X and Mr. Big and all his solo stuff. And he's a great guitar player. I mean, apart from being a great guitar player, he's a great guitar teacher. And so it's going to be very interesting to meet him because there's just so much talent in one human being. So it's going to be great. So let's get to it. Hi.
Hello, what's happening?
Yeah,
hello,
cool.
hello. Merci.
Such an honor to meet you, Paul. I mean, I've been admiring your work since I was a kid, teenager and stuff. How have you evolved as a musician since Racer X, Mr. Big and your solo stuff?
Wow, well, that's a long time. It's decades and decades. First of all, I'm just happy to be alive. I've survived for decades and decades. I'm still here and breathing air and walking on 2 feet, and of course playing guitar. As far as evolution goes, let's see. I've learned a lot of chords. I think I don't want piano players to have all the fun. You know, the piano players are usually better at chords than guitar players. They probably always will be, but I want to get a little bit of what they do. And so the chords that I learned from as a kid were like Ramones chords. I knew how to play Rockaway Beach, and those are great guitar chords, and I think all the keyboard players wish they could do that. But the keyboard players have like Elton John, Billy Joel, and those kind of people. And don't go changing, try and please me. It's often mellower because it kind of has to be, or you can't hear the details. But I did a lot of exploring in that area. I was really into. Well, I grew up in the '70s when all those. Elton John and Billy Joel and the Carpenters and Todd Rundgren, Queen, of course. I mean, Freddie Mercury just wrote amazing tunes on piano, and so I tried to. What is that? I got to remember it. I don't know if I will. Inside. That's the thing. It's I got to remember these. Anyway, that's what I try to do, whether I succeed or not. And then the other thing is, I wish that I was a better vocalist. And I realized that if I play the vocal line on my guitar, it's all the high notes are there.
Yeah, because you sing marvelously well with your guitar.
Well, that's the thing is like. My voice, my human being voice is sort of like having just those two strings, and the highest I can get is like, that's as high as I can get. But the real singers, Steven Tyler, Ronnie James Dio, Freddie Mercury, those guys, they have like a full guitar in their
7 octaves
in their voice. And I don't have that here, but I do have it here. And so one of the things I've been working on is slide. And I put a magnet in my guitar so it holds the slide in place.
Cool.
And just anytime I want, and suddenly I can get that going.
Does that come standard with all your signature guitars?
No, this is a brand new invention I just came up with.
Wow.
But I'm going to tell them, and maybe they'll start making it. But the funny thing about the slide is, most guitars come with a whammy bar. And of course, there are people who are great whammy bar artists, but in general, you don't need a lot of practice to use a whammy bar. You just sort of grab it and go, blah, 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 and it works. But a slide, you need to spend some time, becoming a slide player. It's not, you can't just, and then you got to figure out really how to play horizontally. Because most guitar players, there's 6 strings, so you play across, and it's sort of one spot. But with slide, it's more up and down. It'd be. So it's much more of this kind of movement, and if you're not used to that, you don't know where the notes are.
So is slide guitar something you've recently got back into, or something that you've picked up again recently?
The last tour I did, I had one slide song, and so that started to get me into it a little more, and it was just fun. Well, the other thing, I discovered that for me, this is the best finger. I just have a better time with the best slide players like Johnny Winter, he uses the third, and there's other guys who use the pinky, but I like the second finger. And I started doing like Janis Joplin, Mercedes-Benz, the oh Lord, won't you buy me? And I would, and trying to get that out. And also on my new album, about half the album, I'm playing the melodies on slide. So it's really like, not only have I found my voice by playing vocal lines, but I found a second voice with a slide, because it has a different
way
sound
of expression.
To it. So a lot of guitar players, me too, we try to have like a lot of pedals, and you think, oh, if I hit a pedal, maybe I'll sound different. But with the slide, really, it's like you get to have 2 guitar players on one guitar. To me, like a good example of learning a vocal line would be like Blackbird. And Blackbird is singing the dead of night, and that last line McCartney does, because into the line of the dark black night. That's such a cool. And that's, you got to jump. That's a really long way to go, and you hopefully get it accurate.
And how do you actually come about composing? That's what really interests me, meeting great musicians like you are, is how do you, is it always different? Would you assemble a certain amount of riffs on the guitar, or is it stuff you hear in your head and then translate it into the guitar? Or
Well, initially you just try to get every idea you can. I carry, the phone's got a voice recorder, so it's sort of the equivalent of having a cassette player back in the day, and just get lots of little ideas. But lately, I've really been using lyrics as the starting point. And the first single on my new album, which we will play tonight, is called "Having It," and it's an instrumental, but I wrote it as a vocal song, and then I played the part on guitar. So the line is like, "Having it, don't make me stop wanting it. Having it, don't make me stop wanting it. The back of it just made me want to see the front of it. Having it, don't make me stop wanting it. Having it." And so, I'm doing sort of a guitar. And it becomes a guitarish version of that. But it makes me write differently.
And And so, I mean, another aspect of you that I admire is that not only are you obviously a good musician, but also a really good guitar teacher. And I've been watching all your instructional videos. I mean, how do you get a kick out of that, and how did you come about wanting to be able to teach and transmit?
Well, people used to just, and from really early on, like when I used to play in clubs when I was a teenager, I'd get off stage and people would come up, man, do you give lessons? It was just always, I had this like magnet for people wanted me to teach them, and I never really set out to do it. But, when you're a kid, even now, I still want to pay rent. And so when I was a student, it was a great way to make some extra money, I could buy more amps because I would give lessons. And the way I teach has really changed over the years because I've been able to see what works, and I just understand more about teaching, and more about what people need. And the nice thing now is I have an online guitar school, with a company called ArtistWorks, and I do like 1,000 videos a year.
Wow!
I recorded 2 this morning, and when I go back to the hotel, I'll do something. It's a constant battle to keep up because the students send in a video, and I watch it, and then I make them a reply. So it's not just random ideas. These are lessons for people, and then those get put on the site, and everybody can watch every lesson. So it's all in the archives there, and it's taught me so much about like technique. But not the kind of technique that people normally think, okay, you pick fast and that's the technique. It's things like how to hold the guitar. People hold the guitar really differently from each other. And, I've become very opinionated about what I think is right for rock guitar. And, it's different than classical. A lot of people have this sort of classical, it's between the legs, foot up on a stool and the thumb behind the neck. And if you want to play classical, that'll work. But if you want to, go, have like strong, that's thumb over. You're not going to get that. You get like the shaky, nervous, out of tune vibrato. But you put your thumb over, and you can also mute, so you can like bang away. It's so much fun to hit it. And so much of that's really the biggest challenge with rock guitar is it's a fire-breathing monster, and you've got to control that as you're banging away and just get one. Be able to be loose with it and still in control.
What's the secret of playing fast?
Well, there's 2 parts of playing fast. One is playing fast. The other is playing fast and having it sound good. And it's hard to make it sound good. And so to me, one of the things that I just do is listen. And if it sounds crappy, then chances are that's not going to work, and I have to try something else.
Yeah.
And if I had any advantage in my whole life, it was that I could hear crappy pretty easily, and in myself and in like the local players that I grew up with. And it kept me slow for a long time, because I'd hear other guys that were much faster than me, but it'd be like, well, they're fast, but not really, it doesn't sound good, And I could tell that they were just sort of going like as fast as they could, and then hoping that that the hands would go together, and they didn't. And so basically, the 2 ways to learn not only fast playing, but learn anything, from the top down or the bottom up. And what I mean by that, top down is like you learn somebody else's lick that's already finished and they can do it. And so it's this fully formed thing up here, and you go like, okay, I'm going to figure out what that is, and I'm going to take this perfect thing, and I'm going to try to like get it and build this, build it myself. Or you can take something that is like small, but you can do it yourself, not from somebody else, but you can do it. And then you start to develop that, come up with variations, and that's almost guaranteed to work because it's built on something you can do. Whereas if you're trying to build something that someone else can do, maybe they have different habits and a different physiology and different hand size, and it's. I mean, it might work. It's possible. It's worth trying. But there's also, I'd say, 85% chance it's always going to work for that guy. It's not going to work for you. And to me, that's why, like, all the fast guitar players that I grew up listening to, none of them sound like each other. You know, when Yngwie plays fast, it's really different than when Gary Moore plays fast, and that's different than when Alvin Lee plays fast, and different than when Uli Roth plays. They all have their own way of doing it, which is really cool. And then to me, they're all bottom-up guys. They weren't like instructional video. I mean, in a way, I'm like the cause of a lot of bad playing, because people go like, okay, well, this is how Paul does it, and if I just metronome it long enough, and it's like, no, that's it might work. But chances are, the thing that you can depend on is you find one lick that works for you, and then you start to build that.
Cool.
And that's what I had like one Tony Iommi lick that worked for me, which was that. The end of Sweet Leaf. And the cool thing about that was it was in time. You know, there was a groove. And then that could morph into, and then that could morph into, and you know, it could just grow and grow and grow, and then it becomes something that's my own.
But there's one secret note, and that is the Black Sabbath note.
What's all about the masterclass you're doing tonight? What's special about this?
Oh yeah, well, I'm going to learn a lot tonight because it's a masterclass for me. I picked a lot of songs that I'm interested in, and you know, I'm doing like Yes, All Over a Lonely Heart, I'm doing the vocal line. You know, and learning that is I get so much out of it, and then I share what I learned with the audience, and you know, I show them technical stuff, you know, that they probably wouldn't get from, you know, a normal instructional video, you know, stuff like, you know, weird wrist and shoulder things that are kind of magic, and we play with the, you know, local rhythm section, and it's so it's a nice balance of live performed music and me showing what I did in the song to make the song work. And I take my Beethoven phrase, da, 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 and I put it in blues, like.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This was Paul Gilbert for Knock Knock. Thank you for watching.